always bring it with me, but I did bring it tonight. This is what you all walked in with, 3 pounds of the most incredibly complex material in the universe, your brain. Now, I know it, now, I don't know. Yeah, now, your name is? You looked at your name tag. That's why they give them to you, Dave, right? Because you could be out wandering in the hotel at 4 o'clock in the morning, and they know how to put you back where you belong. So it doesn't look very big, Dave, right? But remember, your brain is all folded up and tucked into your skull. Now, if you took your brain out and laid it flat on a table, how big would it be? The size of a double sheet of newspaper. But to make you all more aesthetically pleasing, your brain is all folded up and tucked into your skull. Otherwise, you'd look like a wafer head. So we're going to talk about this brain. Why a session on the brain? I mean, that's a fair question. How many of you, your job at Hitachi Data... Now, what's your name? Yeah. Lorella, I'm going to be really upset if this isn't true. They promised me. I was told that in this room, I was going to have the 1,000 finest brains at Hitachi Data, that the other brains had been dispersed elsewhere in the hotel today, that I would have the finest 1,000 in this room for this session. Is that correct? Chris, you saw that, right? Let me get up on the stage for the people in the cheap seats back there. So, you guys saw this. I said to Lorella, 1,000 finest brains at Hitachi Data in this room, and she said, that's right. And that head was... So we're going to take that 4 out of 10 endorsement, and we're going to run with it. Why a session on the brain? Well, your brain is involved in everything you do. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, your brain is fully on. It never gets a break. This is not a union job. For example, how many of you, your first night in the hotel here at the MGM, you didn't get the same good night's sleep you normally get at home? Yes or yes? So how many of you knew that while you were trying to fall asleep that first night, that part of your brain was up all night long, wondering what might be hiding in the closet? Could there be something under the bed that you don't know about? And it takes a while for your brain to calm down and accept that this is an okay environment. So your brain is on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days. It's right at the center of who you are as a person. How many of you, your job at Hitachi and the rest of your life requires you to be reasonably good at paying attention? Hands on that? Paying attention is a result of good brain function. How many of you are called upon at work and at home to be reasonably good with your listening skills? That's the result of good brain function. How many of you occasionally are called upon to make a good decision? That's the result of good brain function. So your brain is involved in everything you do. So my very, very small part in your global kickoff is to challenge you at Hitachi Data to start a conversation about the brain. So 90% of what we know about your brain has been learned in the last 2 years. Now, I'm actually pretty shocked wherever I go, in any audience I ever speak to, if anybody has ever read a book about the brain cover to cover. Now, I'm not going to put you on the spot, but I was recently speaking in Germany, very large company, and I actually asked for a show of hands. How many people had read a book about the brain? Not a single hand in the room went up. How many of you are occasionally called upon to solve problems at work? Problem solving is a result of good brain function. How many of you have kids at home, your own personal kids? So being a parent, effective parenting is the result of good brain function. Leadership, effective leadership is the result of good brain function. So your brain is involved in everything you do. Now, this slide, 90% of what we know about the brain has been learned in the last 2 years. In 2 years, that slide is still going to be valid. Why? Because in 2 years, 90% of what we know about the brain has been learned in the last 2 years. How well your company does, how well you do as an individual within your company, really requires that your brain develops high pattern recognition devices. Now, Dave, sometimes elephants fall out of the sky and land on your garage. I mean, why not his garage? I mean, sometimes stuff happens randomly. But very, very rarely, almost everything happens as part of a pattern. And so how many of you know people who just struggle in every area of their life? They look at something that just goes left into the ditch every time. How many of you know somebody like that? Yeah, some of you are laughing because, on the one hand, it's kind of funny. That's the stuff they make sitcoms out of. But on the other hand, you show me a brain who, their relationships are off. They aren't doing well at work. They're struggling with their health. And I will almost certainly show you a brain that has a hard time seeing patterns. So how many of you would like to get more out of your brain instantly, starting today, at work and at home, but also make sure that your brain ages beautifully for the rest of your life? Yes or yes? Then something really profound has to take place or start changing, and it's going to start right now in this room. You are going to need a partner. So when I ask you, this will be an interesting Mensa test for this group because we've got 1,000 people in here. But you're going to need a partner, and I'm going to ask you in a moment to put your hand up as high as you can. Look at somebody at your table or maybe a table within 1 or 2 of where you are, and I want you to look at that person, make eye contact, nod, smile, and look friendly at that person. If that person looks back at you, nods, smiles, and looks friendly, you've got a partner for discussion purposes. You'll both put your hands down. If you look at somebody, eye contact, nod, smile, look friendly, and they ignore you, keep looking. All right? Because who knows for sure. You don't need to change seats. You just have to be able to see your partner, but you do need a partner. So everybody, hand up. Quickly find a partner as fast as you can. Go find yourself a partner. All right, now do this quickly. We're not trying to buy a house here. All right. Does everybody have a partner? Look, if you don't have a partner, don't sit there pretending that you have a partner. Just adopt yourself to a couple of people. All right, so here's what I want you to do. Keep a straight face. Keep a straight face. Look at your partner, point at that person, and say, "You're a genius." All right, so I'm wondering what part of keep a straight face we didn't understand here. Now remember, there's only one person in the room who can see everybody, and that's me. Something you might want to keep in mind, by the way. Now, I was watching you. When I said you're a genius, I made an observation, and then I made 2 quick observations about that observation. Here's my observation. You looked at your partner, pointed at that person, and said, "You're a genius." There was a slight hesitation, followed by some variation of, and you were laughing at each other. So now my 2 observations about that observation. Number 1, you laughed. That was good. When you laugh, well, Dave, you probably knew this. I didn't know this. I do lots of talks for school teachers and university professors on accelerating learning, and one of them is called Laughing Matters. And when I was researching that program, well, let me phrase it as a question. What is the difference between somebody with a defined sense of humor and somebody who does not have a defined sense of humor? What's the difference? Just somebody call it out. No, there's no punchline. The answer is 7 years of life expectancy. People with a defined sense of humor live 7 years longer than the grumps. And the worst of it is the grumps make the rest of us miserable while we're waiting for them to die.